Hi, I'm Mark Small. It's Civil Discourse Now. It is August 7th, 2022. Yesterday on podcast, I was being a little edgy in the manner in which I referred to some evangelical ministers, actually in their schools and stuff, because I said the Reverend Billy Bob, and I think I used that term a couple of times. A couple of things about that. One, I was born and raised in mid-north Indiana, and a lot of we called them born-agains back then, or fundamentalists, but the same kind of, I don't know, orientation. I heard several of them at different times preach about how there's a constant theme. You didn't have to pay a dime to have your soul saved. And people might make fun of us for being peculiar, but we're peculiar. I don't remember any of them as having graduated from a college. Doesn't mean that they're not intelligent. In fact, I went to a service one night. An individual driving the car in which I was a passenger said, "I understand you graduated from college." I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I'm smarter than you, and I don't know how to read or write." And I said, "Well, the ability to read or write is not necessarily a gauge of one's intelligence." I said, "But why is it you say, he said, I'm smarter than you." Okay, fine. Well, why do you say that? He said, "So I have Jesus Christ as my personal savior." I said, "Well, that's not necessarily the reason that how do you know about the Bible?" "My wife read it into a cassette recorder." "That's cool." I then at that, and he said, "You read any books right now?" "Well, yeah, I generally am." "And what are you reading?" And this is serious. I said, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. It was a very difficult period of my life. I said, "What's that book about?" And I said, "Well, I didn't point out that she was like a sadomasochist, but I did say it was like it depicts the thinking people of the world as going on strike." And it was an arcane. Anyways, at that service, people were like rolling in the aisles and running up and down the aisles. They were not doing anything to cause me to drop a reference to the Reverend Billy Bob. In later, like I saw like Kenneth Copeland preach a couple of months ago. He was saying they laughed at his ha ha ha. So there's a consistent theme. You look at the level of education of people who are fundamentalist Christians, evangelicals, born agains, whatever. They're going to be lower levels of education than general community. But that was harsh for me to say, Reverend Billy Bob, because some of the people who are evangelicals and who are trying to force their peculiar view of Christianity into a theocracy that this government of ours was never meant to be, they're slick. You listen to them, they don't talk with Hoosier twang. They sound like they're one of the coasts until you start listening to the substance of what they say. So when I was saying that about the Reverend Billy Bob, that was taking a shot in a cynical way at, I don't know, 15 to 17% of the population claims to or identifies as evangelical Christians. And that was unfair. I shouldn't have referred to them in that way as being hicks. I have several friends, many, who are evangelicals who are quite well spoken, and I know a couple of them have higher education. But let's be real. When they try to force their views into our community and our government, and they make false representations about the nature of our government having been Christian, then expressing satirical attitudes towards them or being a little bit abrasive is not necessarily uncalled for. So, as I drink a glass of water that comes out of a stream but has to get purified because all the streams in Indiana have advisories on them. You're not supposed to eat fish out of them. And that goes to the main point with which I wanted to kind of conclude, and that is we're seeing a backlash here in Indiana of businesses and people who are higher education, who have values that aren't necessarily those held by the supermajorities in both the Indiana Senate and the Indiana House of Representatives. Eli Lilly has said they're not going to expand here anymore in Indianapolis. They'll expand elsewhere. That's a huge employer here. There are conventions that are not going to come here. Now, think of it this way. It's not because they want to kill those unborn children. No. They want to make sure that, one, the people who work for them, in the case of Eli Lilly, or the people that are attending their conventions, like Gen Con or one of the other conventions, they don't face a medical emergency here and have their care governed by 19th century odd religious attitudes. Well, I'm sorry, ma'am. You're going to have to die because that unborn child is more important than you. They can't take that risk. So they're not going to be coming here. That means Indiana's going to be losing money. So when I said that about the Rev Billy Bob last night, I should have said, well, I'll make a satirical expression, or something. But I'll tell you the people who are most dangerous. The people who are most dangerous are the people who don't have a twang, who act like they're intelligent. And our ministers in churches that have weekly weapons training. We actually have somebody like that here. And public office. Micah Beckwith. I'd say that he's the type of person opposed, in my opinion, as a political individual. He's operating in our community. I believe he presents a clear and present danger to our government and our community. Teaching parishioners and members of your flock how to use weapons. Weapon every week. I think that's their women's auxiliary. I think it's called God, Guns, and Babes or something. Something misogynistic. And if I'm inaccurate on that, I'll be glad to stand corrected. It's not defamatory. It might be inaccurate. I don't think it is. But if he's going to sit there and say he talks to God and God tells him about government, and his church has, they call it gun safety, same thing, it's weapons training, then we need to speak out and be able to speak out. Only 15 to 17% of the population espouse those opinions, and those people want to take over. Dude, man, anybody out there, realize once they get that power, because they're in a minority, they're not going to give up. Think about whenever in history, a government has been a Christian theocracy. Can't think of anything really being good. I mean, the Vatican is kind of contained. They don't have an army going out all the time. They got those weird Swiss guards standing there. The theocracies kind of smother people's rights. And this is not a Christian country. Mark Small, Civil Discourse Now, peace, love, happiness, and freedom always. And of course, be with you, and have a good week.